Okay, there's a failure to communicate. Okay, whenever you have productive black men, there is a failure to communicate with, I would say, black men who see the world through the eyes of hip hop. So you can say inner city. I would say black men who more so think that hip hop is indicative of what the black experience truly is. And unfortunately, there's a high number of black men who think this way who are in the inner city. But you can define it, or you can call it whatever you want to call it. I'll just say those men. We'll say inner city to make things easier. With certain members of the black female population and with certain members of the older population. So I would say the 45 plus, anywhere from the 45 to 65 population. There seems to be a difficulty in communication whenever any one of these three groups are talking to productive black men. Black men, and when I say productive, I'm talking about black men who have stable employment and black men who want to have families. I'll start off with inner city black men. Not to say all inner city, but like I said before, black men who kind of think that hip hop is accurate in terms of how it defines the black male experience. My problem with this group of men is they assume that we have sold out our identity in order to make it. So because we made it through academics or whatever, we somehow made some secret deal to give up our identity. And because of such, we are guilty and that we have to give back. It's this whole idea if you can prove to them that they sold out and they kind of turned their back, you have to give up what you have. Oh, you became a millionaire because you sold out who you were. So now you owe me something. But in reality, I didn't give up anything. I can't turn off my blackness. And we've all seen this with Henry Louis Gates and other people. You really can't turn off your blackness. So I'm not sure how black men can truly sell out when the people who are employing us or working with us don't differentiate the whole idea of you being, a different type of black. You're still black. Either way. Right? So anyways, you have this whole shame, guilt tactic that's going on. When in reality, we differ because we don't believe we're defined by hip-hop. We are defined by something else. But to take this default position as if hip-hop is accurate in terms of how it defines black men, then to fault me for not siding with that definition and try to instill some guilt, there'll be issues. So we can never really come together and have any sort of dialogue because one side doesn't accept how I define myself. And that's pretty important, don't you think? If somebody says, I don't agree with how you define yourself, man, you might as well not talk to the person. And I guess we can say the same thing. I don't agree with how they define themselves either, especially when their same hip-hop is ran by white people. It's not like you have black people up there who are calling the shots. When you have white people calling the shots, but yet you still try to define yourself according to something that they own, I'm going to have an issue with how you define yourself. So obviously there's going to be a failure to communicate because there is no equal ground here. They want to have conversations with this whole idea of you're guilty because you sold out. So whatever we're going to talk about is going to be based off of you helping me out because you sold out. So we're not going to talk and we're going to have issues. In regards to the next group, certain black women, I get upset because you have more shaming and guilting, right? The women know who to talk to when they're upset. So they want to bitch and complain about their past. They don't bitch and complain to the street dudes. They bitch and complain to the dudes who have their shit together. But instead of acknowledging that, what do you get? All black men are the same. If their whole thing is, if you can convince well-to-do black men that we're the ones who are guilty of all the different atrocities going on with black women, that somehow we have to pay up. But in reality, how much time do we have to have children? And even if we wanted to skip out on our children, how easy is it for them to go to the court or, and get some sort of order to have my paycheck garnished? Not too hard. So in reality, we don't have the time to do all these things that we're being accused of. Really? You know, I'm committing crimes or I'm not doing this in the third. How can I have a job if they do a background check? So it doesn't add up. So like I said before, it's a shame and guilt tactic. If I can throw out a whole bunch of things that you never did and pray that one of them sticks, then all of a sudden you owe me something. So if that is the foundation of our dialogue and conversation, it's not going to work. If I'm going to have some sort of conversation with you and you feel like I'm guilty of something that in reality I don't even have the opportunity to do, what are we going to talk about? Like I said before, a big reason to why black men and black women are communicating is because you can't shame us. I think a lot of black women are used to shaming black men into getting what they want. But in regards to the men who are on point, where they can't use shame and guilt as a tool, we have no standing ground. It's just like two people looking at each other. Okay, where do we go from here? I'm clearly not guilty of those things, so what else do you have to say? You know, we can, shake hands and learn about each other, but if the first thing you want to do is blame me for something that I don't even have the means to do, what are we supposed to talk about? Hence my issue with this group of women. Last group, older black people, anywhere from 45 to 65. With them, my issue is a lot of them act like they paved the way and we dropped the ball. But in reality, they dropped the ball. And the ball's rolling, but we don't have the ability to pick it up either. We didn't drop it, yet we don't have the ability to pick it up. But when you talk to this group, they act as if they're the ones that held the ball, and we dropped it, and it's bullshit. Like I said before, and what another person put me on game on, is that the same people who are 45 to 65, during the whole civil rights movement, they were either not born or they were kids. So it's actually our great-grandparents and our grandparents who were in their 20s and 30s during the whole civil rights movement. They were the ones on the picket lines. They were the ones who were going through a lot of the issues that you see with segregation and racism. But if you look at the 80s and the 70s, those times are when our parents, anywhere from 45 to 65, those are when those people were in their heyday. And if you just do your basic black history in terms of America, you'll see that a lot of all these balls that have been dropped were going on in the 70s and in the 60s. And it's these same people who are saying they laid the foundation. They were the ones who were in their prime years during that time. The whole idea of drugs, the whole idea of not valuing education, the whole idea of being absent in the home, all those things start to come about in the 70s and the 80s. So in terms of the 90s and the 2000s, to me that's just a reflection of what our fathers and what our mothers were doing. But when you talk to this generation, because a lot of them have found God, I guess, they have this whole idea that they didn't drop the ball, we did. So if I'm trying to have a dialogue and their default position is that we dropped the ball and they had their shit together, there's going to be issues. Especially when you're talking to somebody older and you don't want to be disrespectful. I'd rather not talk to you. If I have nothing to say and I know I'm going to be disrespectful, there's no need for us to talk. But if we want to talk, I can, do my research and come with evidence showing that, hey, you guys weren't even born when this was going on. But in the 70s and the 80s, when crack and all this other good stuff was happening, you guys were there. Right? Basic mathematics says, hey, you guys were in your 20s and 30s. But from a logical standpoint, you really didn't have much to do with the whole civil rights movement. Our grandparents did. Hence the whole idea of the grandparents in the black community truly being the true backbone. If you think about it, the grandparents are the true backbone of what's going on. Not black women, the grandparents. Right? So, in closing, this is why I have, I guess, legitimate issues with these three groups. Because we never have a dialogue where it's a give and take. People want to start the dialogue with blaming us for something that we didn't do. Right? Oh, and to add, with the older generation, what upsets me, they'll acknowledge that you're doing something, but then they want to hold you accountable for what another man is doing. He's not my son. See, I believe that men can hold other men accountable if you have a father, son, blood, family tie. But another man my age, I have no leverage over him. Who's to say I'm more man than him? Who's to say that I can't? No, who's to say that it's my place to tell him what he needs to do and not get punched in the face? It's disrespectful. It's just like another man that I don't have connections to trying to come in and judge me. It's a difference if we're family, blood, or we grew up with each other. But a man called off the street, just because he's black, I'm supposed to tell him what he's doing is wrong. You can expect to get punched in the face. But this older generation of black people acts as if we can just hold everybody accountable, when in reality, you really can't. So that kind of furthers my issue with them. So anyways, hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. I got to end it here. Take it easy. God bless.